Hey everyone, I'm going to begin the presentation now. My name is James, and my presentation is titled How Passion for Business Can Get You into College and Beyond. I go to Northwestern University. I'm a rising senior, so that's class of 2016. So just a little bit about myself. My name is James Hu. I'm Northwestern, class of 2016. There's our logo. And I'm a double major in economics and music theory. So that's part of both the liberal arts school and the music school. And I'm also doing the financial economics certificate, and that's offered through the Kellogg School of Management, which is the graduate business school at Northwestern. Yeah. So just to talk a little bit about my school first, so you know about my background. Here's the logo again. So we're located in Evanston, Illinois. It's a suburb that's just north of Chicago. So it's in a residential area, very much a college town. Like there's a lot of restaurants and stuff to do there. And then to get into Chicago is pretty easy. You can take the subway line, it's very close to Northwestern, and then you can get into Chicago in like 30 to 45 minutes. There's also buses, Northwestern buses that take you into Chicago. So that's like where we are. There's 6 undergraduate colleges. The biggest one is the liberal arts school. But there's also engineering, music, communications, education, and our journalism school, all of which are very, very strong schools. So I'm part of the liberal arts school and the music school. And then U.S. News and World Report, Northwestern is ranked number 13. 45% of each freshman class is early decision. I myself was not an early decision applicant. And then the overall admission rate is 13%. And of course, it's a bit higher for early decision. Cool. So I'm just going to run through what I'm going to talk about today. Again, the title of my presentation, How Passion for Business Can Get You in College and Beyond. First, I'm going to define what is business. Like, that's a term that's thrown around a lot, you know? Like, you want to go in college to study business. You want to do business after college. But what does it mean to do business? Related to that question is, what is economics? As I'm sure that's a very, very popular major amongst high school seniors. And another question is, what is finance? Finance is something that's very connected to business, and I'm going to touch upon all of these. Next part, I'm going to talk about applying to college as a business student. So a big part of that is choosing a major, because there's a lot of majors out there. You might not know what you want to learn. And then also how to choose a school. I'm sure a lot of you are looking at like college rankings and stuff and picking like the top schools to apply to. But there's also like a lot of nuances between each of these schools, and I'm going to go over that as well. And finally, I'm going to talk about how to be a strong candidate on your college application. So that means how to meet people, have an open mind, getting internships. And to talk about that, I'm also going to be sort of telling my college story and internship experience as part of that. So first, let's talk about what is business. Does anyone in the audience want to say something about what they think business is? No? Okay. Well, I'll tell you what I think business is. So it's a very broad term, it gets thrown around a lot, like, oh, I work in business, I study business, but like, what does that mean? So business is sort of an all-encompassing umbrella. The stuff that it talks about is mostly finance, but it also includes like operations, like running a business, strategy, entrepreneurship, management, sales, fundraising, and a lot more. So basically, what I would say business entails is just generally working for a company, making sure it runs, making sure that it's profitable, making sure that it gets the attention that it needs. What business is not is the more artsy stuff, so that's like marketing, doing graphic design, video design, and then also computer coding. All of these fields are related to business, however, when you think about business and you talk about business, you're more talking about the operations and the money side of things. And of course, a big reason why people go into business is that you can make a lot of money from it. And that's definitely true. So, how do you get started into business? Well, before we talk about that, I'm going to talk a little bit about business school, because while it may be very far on the horizon for some of you, it's definitely something to keep in mind. So at business school, you earn an MBA, that's a Master's in Business Administration, and you can earn an MBA in like many different things. You can earn an MBA in like money management, personal finance, public finance, There's a lot of different fields, but when people talk about MBA, they're talking about going to business school. So some business schools are always attached to colleges as graduate schools. However, a lot of these graduate business schools do offer a full program for undergraduates, notably the Stern School of Business at NYU and Wharton at UPenn. So what that basically means is that even though Stern and Wharton are full graduate programs at their respective colleges, it means that undergraduates can apply to the Stern School of Business, they can apply to the Wharton School, and basically be in that school for all 4 years of undergrad. It's a rather uncommon thing. However, these two programs do have that. Whereas most business schools only offer a partial program for undergraduates. For example, Kellogg at Northwestern, that's the financial economics certificate that I'm doing. To get into that program, I had to take a rigorous set of math, statistics, and economics classes, and only then was I accepted into the graduate program. So it teaches courses at a graduate level from graduate professors. Other notable ones are the Haas School of Business at Berkeley. As a similar process as Kellogg, you have to take like a lot of math and statistics requirements, and then if you get like good enough grades and a good essay, then they'll accept you to Haas in your junior or senior year. And then Sloan School of Business at MIT. So basically, when you apply to a college and you want to do business, you should think about these things. Whether or not you want to go into Stern or Wharton, like a full business program, you don't really want to touch other liberal arts subjects, you know you want to do business. Or if you want a little bit more flexibility, you want to go to college a couple more years, see if business is really something you want to do, and after that, then you apply for like a certificate program at one of those colleges. So there's like two options that you can take. So how do I launch a career in business? Some of you might be asking. So there is a very common path for getting into business, and that's this, as shown on the flow chart here. So immediately when you graduate from undergrad, you get into a job, you're working for 2 to 3 years, gain some work experience, make some connections. And after that, a lot of people go back to school or business school and get their MBA. It's a very common path because most MBA programs won't accept students directly out of undergrad. They want their applicants to have a few years of work experience. So people usually do the MBA after like 2 to 3 years, but you can also do your MBA after like 6, 7, 10 years. Basically, whenever you want to do like a career change or you want to pick up more skills. Finally, after that, 2 years of MBA or 1 year, depending on their program, people usually leave and enter their long-term career. And that could be in anything. You could want to work in like the movie industry, or you would want to do like supply chain for a car company. All that's encompassed under business, and it builds upon the experience that you gain in your MBA and in your starting job. So among top schools, there's two very popular starting jobs, and that's consulting and finance. You might have heard these terms thrown around, and they'll be more apparent once you get into college. But just for now, these are the two most common jobs for people just out of college. So let's first talk about consulting. Here's some famous consulting firms, you might have heard of them. So what do consultants do? Consultants are basically there for companies to hire when they want to work on a project. Like let's say Walmart wants to expand their operations in India, but they don't know if it's going to be profitable or how many customers they're going to have. So what they do is hire, like say Deloitte. They go to their strategy consulting team and then they say, here are the numbers, here's the revenue that we project is going to happen. Can you figure out if it's a good idea for us to expand to India? So what the consultants at Deloitte do is that they run these numbers, they crunch these things, they figure out, yes, it is good to expand to India, or no, it's not. Or it could be if you do these following strategies. And then they make a presentation and they tell Walmart the results. So what consultants basically do is they're outsourced a lot of the work that the companies want done. It's a very common starting position right out of undergrad because it doesn't require a lot of technical knowledge. It's not like engineering where you have to know like how to do these specific formulas. As long as you have like a good education and you're smart, you'll be able to be a good consultant. Also, because a lot of consultants are in the same mindset as you, that they want to go in for a couple of years, then they want to ultimately go to business school and pursue a different field. So you'll meet a lot of different people in a lot of different fields that exposes you to a lot of different ideas about what you might want to do later in life. And finally, consulting gives you a lot of useful skills. Like you'll learn how to use Microsoft Excel, You'll be good at data analysis, and you can make good presentations, which is a very essential skill for anyone. And then within consulting, there's like a lot of different fields. You don't really have to think about all this now, but there's strategy consulting, management, economic, healthcare. You get it. There's like all kinds of consulting out there. But the most common are strategy and management consulting for people right out of college. And then a common misconception is that if you work at a consulting firm, it means that you're working on Wall Street or you're working in finance. That simply isn't true. Yeah, it's not true. What is finance, though, is finance. So these are some of the finance firms. I'm sure you've heard of some of these as well. So what is finance? Finance is the study of money management and markets. It's a study of how people use money as a resource. It's a study of how people invest. It's a study of how people make decisions at a business, right? Because you're only gonna make a decision at a business, say launch a new product, if it's gonna be profitable. And finance gives you the tools necessary to calculate whether or not it's gonna be profitable. So finance is a lot of different fields as well. Investment banking is a very common one, but there's also wealth management, private equity, trading, public finance, personal finance, accounting, stuff like that. The difference between finance, finance is Wall Street. So when you think of a Wall Street firm, you're thinking of like a big bank, like Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. Those are finance firms. So besides consulting, finance is the other very popular starting job out of college. Because finance makes people a lot of money, and people like money. But also because finance gives you very powerful tools that any business wants, because every business's bottom line is to be profitable. And the better skilled you are at finance, the better you can make financial decisions, and the more money you can make. So specifically for finance, the position that a lot of people go into is investment banking, because that's considered to be the most basic of all finance positions. You learn how to value companies, you learn how to do presentations, you learn how to use Excel. It's very similar to consulting in that way. And for that reason, a lot of people do investment banking. You'll meet a lot of people. You go get your MBA, then you can do whatever you want. So those are the two things that people really get into out of college. Next I'm going to talk a bit about applying to college. Choosing a major, that's very important. The Common App, you get to choose your major. However, there's not like an essay portion that says, why do you choose your major? It doesn't matter what you choose for your major. However, you should always talk about your major, and make sure that your story makes sense with your choice of major. So here's an example. Let's say in high school, you did a lot of science fairs. You did research on stem cells, cancer research. You worked in a lot of different labs. You worked at a hospital. You're very focused on like healthcare, right? But if you apply for a business program as like an economics major, that's not going to make sense to the college. They're like, oh, you're very interested in healthcare and pharmacy. Like, why are you suddenly interested in business? Like, it doesn't make sense, And the college is going to think that's weird. However, you can always spin it. So you can say that, you've like seen all these things, you've like seen how hospitals operate and stuff. However, you want to get into the business of hospitals. You want to see how healthcare firms make their money. And for that reason, you want to learn economics. Colleges will think that's really cool because not only are you interested in business, but you're interested in a very specific side of business, and you've shown that you've already gained experience in this field and you've thought about what you want to do as a career. Colleges definitely like students who sort of think on their own feet in that way, and that they're not just mindless people going into the general business term, but that they actually know what business is and they have a reason for wanting to go into business. And similarly, so you can do finance for like healthcare firms or like consulting for healthcare firms, which is another thing. So no matter what you choose as your major, make sure that it ties back to like your extracurricular activities, your work experience, whatever you have. The most common major in all colleges is economics. That's at every school. At Northwestern, for example, 25% of undergraduates are economics. At Harvard, 25% of undergraduates are economics. So yeah, people definitely like to learn about economics. But what is economics? So here's a definition that I got from Wikipedia. Economics is the study of how people behave, how they make choices, and how they choose to use limited resources like money and time. So economics basically breaks down human behavior at a level that explains how they do it in a very quantitative level. Like let's say I go to this restaurant and I could buy either a pizza or a burger. They're the same price. Which one am I going to choose? Obviously both of them are going to make me happy. But if the pizza makes me happier, then I'm going to choose the pizza. Because for the same amount of money, I'm getting more happiness. So economics is basically using that sort of quantitative sense to determine how people make their decisions. It's very connected to money because that's the easiest way to quantify things. We can also think of it in terms of time, in terms of units of happiness, utility, stuff like that. So economics, it's very related to business. It's very related to the markets. However, economics is not business. This is a very big misconception that a lot of students have when applying to college, and also a big misconception that a lot of students have when they're already in college. Sure, economics, you'll learn about the market, you'll learn about supply and demand, you'll learn about how businesses make decisions, but ultimately, economics does not give you the tools to do business. You know, it's not going to teach you how to value a firm. It's not going to teach you to calculate the profit and loss of a certain product. All it does is teach you the definition that you have above. In order to learn business, you have to learn the valuable skills in another way. That's through common fields like consulting and finance. I already said this sort of. Economics, it provides foundation for understanding business concepts. It provides a foundation for understanding finance. However, economics is also useful for a lot of different things. Psychology, sociology, political science, all these different things. They're all tied to economics. And that's the reason I think why economics is the most popular major, because it really forms a strong foundation for a lot of different fields. It just so happens that a lot of these people do want to go into business, and that's why it's like commonly perceived as a business major when it's not. Yeah. So I'm just going to list some majors that I've seen people study for going to business. Of course, I touched on economics. Another common one is psychology. A lot of firms like that because, I mean, you find out how people think. If you learn how people think, you find out like what makes them buy products and stuff like that. Political science is very important. Business is very tied to politics, of course. Like if a government passes regulation that limits how you can sell this certain product, it's very connected to that. Math is a very big one. All business firms like people who are very quantitatively minded. If you can do math very well, then you're a very smart person, and firms like to hire smart people. That being said, math is a hard major, but if you like math, it's a good major to have. Statistics is pretty similar. Physics is a major that I've seen people study in the finance field. Of course, physics it's not going to be directly applicable to your work. However, physics is a lot of math, and businesses know that. So they know that you have a strong math background if you study physics. I've even had some of my friends at Northwestern who came to college studying pre-med, deciding that they wanted to be a doctor, but then ultimately changing to like investment banking or something. And they've been very successful at it, and I think that's because the pre-med is a very difficult track, and companies know that if you can get a good grade with a pre-med major like bio or chemistry, then you're obviously very hardworking and you're a smart person. So, also computer science is a big one as well. A lot of finance firms have a tech side, so that means like writing algorithms to help trade the markets and stuff like that. So they really do like people with computer science backgrounds. It's also a very logic-based major, so that's always good to have. And finally, engineering. Industrial engineering, a lot of schools offer this as a major. I didn't know what industrial engineering was when I first came to Northwestern, or else I actually probably would have studied it now that I think about it. Industrial engineering it's not really engineering in the sense that you like make stuff, but it's engineering in the sense that you find out how industries work. It's very similar to economics, but you gain a lot more technical skills, like you learn how to code, you learn how to do like supply chain management, you learn finance. Industrial engineering is a very, very good business major. Electrical engineering is a pretty common one. I don't know why electrical, but like I've seen a lot of people like that. Financial engineering, that's offered at some schools as well. that's more directly related to finance. And financial engineering, what it is, it's basically making financial products. Like when we had a recession in 2008, it was because of the mortgage packages that the banks put together that ultimately failed. That's all financial engineering. They're creating financial products. But really, any kind of engineering is going to get you like a strong position in an interview with like a company. Because engineers, they do a lot of math, do a lot of coding, requires a lot of skill. I've seen like mechanical engineers, chemical engineers, all these kind of people going into business, and companies love it. So yeah, you might want to pick a major, but you might also want to think about a second major or like a minor if you don't think you have time. Yeah, so if you are going to do a double major and you want to go into business, I would recommend that you choose one major that is business related, like be economics or math or something. But if you're also interested in something else like art history or like music or communications or theater or whatever it is you like to do, you definitely want to show that on the side as well. And the reason for that is because an unusual major can make for a good interview conversation. And that's like a very important point that I think a lot of people miss. Personally, I'm an economics and music theory major. And in 100% of my interviews, ever since I started studying at college, 100% of my interviews, the interviewer has always asked me, like, what's music theory? Why do you study music theory? What do you like about it? And that always makes for like a good conversation. Because in an interview, for like a job or even for like a college, what you're looking for is not just to show, hey, I'm good at math, I'm good at economics, because quite frankly, a lot of people are studying economics and math. But what you want to do is make an impression on your interviewer. You want to stand out. You want to show that you're unique. And the best way to do that is with an unusual major, because people would be like, oh, like who was that kid again? Oh, that's right, he was studying history, and he was interested in European history. They'll remember things about you. That being said, if you're really not interested in anything else, don't pick up a second major. Like, don't force yourself to do something you don't want to. But this I've found to be a very useful thing for me in the recruitment process. Yeah. All right. Next, choosing a school. So there's a lot of different schools out there, of course, but I think there's two very important things that you have to think about. One is its image and its ranking. So of course you can get a ranking from like US News and World Report that gives a pretty good idea of what the public thinks about your school, how they perceive the quality of your school. But another important thing is that you have to consider the opportunities available at the school. The two are pretty correlated, however there are some differences to be noted. So for example, consulting firms, they favor highly ranked schools, of course, because they believe that students at these schools, they've worked really hard in high school, they like take the initiative to do a lot of things, and so they're going to be very smart and technical people. So what does it mean for consulting firms to favor these schools? It means that they provide more opportunities to the students. They'll have info sessions. Like the firm, Accenture, is going to come to your school and say, hey, from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock today in this room, we're going to want to meet your undergraduate students, and we want to network with them, we want to tell them about our job, and we want to hear from them because they want the students at these schools. They'll offer stuff like coffee chats. Boston Consulting Group might be like, we're doing coffee chats from 12 to 8 at Starbucks. You can sign up for a slot and you can have a one-on-one time with our consultants because we want to get to know you better. They'll also offer like consulting competitions where you can get a team of students together. They'll present you a case and they want you to work on it because they want to see how students at your school think. And these are all opportunities that you can get if you're a target school. That's the term that they use. It means that the company targets that school for recruiting. They'll go on campus for that recruitment. Whereas for non-target schools, they'll accept applications from you, but they're not going to go to your school to meet you in person. So that's the big advantage of going to school with a good ranking, is because you get a lot of different opportunities. Of course, anyone can get into consulting, but you just have to work harder. You have to go more out of your way to make connections and stuff like that. Now for finance firms, they care a little bit less about rankings. You'll see that the schools that they recruit from are more scattered in terms of where they rank against the other colleges. Because finance firms, they care more about undergraduate business and economics programs. Because they know that even if the school overall isn't that good, if there's a very strong economics program, then there's going to be a lot of strong business students there. So that's what finance firms care about. And similar to consulting firms, they'll provide more opportunities. They'll have on-campus info sessions, coffee chats, finance case competitions, and stuff like that. So I'm just going to list out some of the top schools for finance and Wall Street recruitment. So from the Ivy Leagues, UPenn is very, very strong because the Wharton School of Business obviously is very prestigious. And then other schools are like Harvard, Cornell, Princeton, Columbia. A lot of people from there go into Wall Street jobs. And then for non-Ivy schools, Northwestern has a very strong recruiting background. All the large banks target it for recruiting. MIT, obviously, because it's very smart people. UChicago is a very strong business program as well. NYU. NYU because they have a strong business program, but also because they're located in New York, and a lot of finance firms are in New York, so it's very easy for them to recruit. University of Virginia is a very strong Wall Street presence. University of Michigan as well, UC Berkeley, and Stanford. The thing to note about Berkeley and Stanford is that since they're on the West Coast, a lot of finance firms are on the East Coast. So the recruiting opportunities there won't be as strong, but they are still present. They're some of the strongest West Coast schools for Wall Street recruitment. But yeah, other than those 2 points, there's other things you should consider when choosing a college. Does the school offer flexibility in study? You know, you might change your major, or you might change your career path completely. I know some schools, you can come in as an undecided major, and it's very easy to pick a major or change a major. However, some schools, especially public schools where they're like more crowded and there's not a lot of space, it can be very difficult to change a major sometimes. Or sometimes if you change a major, you're not going to have enough time to complete your new major before you graduate in 4 years, and you have to stay for 5 years or so. So in my opinion, it's pretty important to look at how flexible the school is, because you'll go to college thinking that you want to do one thing, but you really never know the people you're going to meet, the experiences you're going to have. Anything could change. So that's very important in my opinion. The school in a good location. Like I said earlier, where the school is located actually plays a big role in which companies will recruit at that school. If your school is very good, but it's in the middle of, say, New Hampshire, which is just like in the middle of nowhere, like not a lot of firms are going to want to put a lot of effort there to go recruit. However, if you're like the New England area or like in the Midwest, Chicago area, a lot of firms are located there and they have headquarters there, so they'll spend a lot of resources to recruit there. And you might like living in a big city, or you might not like living in a big city. Those are also things to consider. And finally, this sounds pretty silly, but getting to your school from your airport can be a big hassle for a lot of different schools. So if you don't mind travel, then sure, apply anywhere you want. But if you don't like riding buses for like 4 hours, then you should think about like how to get to your school. And finally, do you fit into the culture of the school? This is a pretty overlooked thing, but it's definitely very important. Definitely try to visit the school if possible. I know like a lot of high school seniors go on like college tours where they go around the U.S. and just like look at different schools. That's like a very good idea, because like you can look at a school's website and hear people talk about it, and like you can have an idea what it is. But until you go there and experience the campus yourself, like that'll give you a much better idea of where you want to go. And definitely try to talk with students who currently attend. So this could be like people who just graduated high school, or you could just like reach out to people maybe from like your parents' work or something. Talk to people who go there and talk about what they like about it, what they don't like about it. Definitely gives you good insight. Because remember, you're committing to the school for 4 years. You don't want to go somewhere that you don't like. So finally, I'm talking about what I think makes a strong candidate. You gotta be very prepared. So one of the best things you can do for that is to meet people. Because after all, business, it's all about working with others. When you work in finance or consulting especially, you're always going to be working in teams with people on projects. And if you don't have good teamwork skills, no one's going to want to work with you. people are going to say, oh, I don't like working with that person, and then you're not going to get a job. And connections will always be useful. You definitely want to meet as many people as you can, because you never know what they might, turn out with an opportunity for you. And always have an open mind. Like I said earlier, you could change your major in college. You don't want to be so dead set on one thing that you aren't exposed to other ideas. So you might want to go into college thinking that you want to do consulting, but suddenly art really appeals to you. Don't be afraid to change or accept other people's ideas. And finally, get internships. It's a bit harder in high school because a lot of companies look for college interns, but they're still extremely valuable positions if you can get them. First of all, because obviously you gain real work experience and colleges recognize that, but also because it gives you a chance to test the career. On paper, this job might sound really great, but once you actually go to the office and do it, you might hate it. So it's a good way to test the waters, test the job, and also to test yourself. See, do I fit into this company? Do I fit into this career path? Is this something that I could see myself doing forever? So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So I graduated Lindbergh High School back in 2012, and I went to Northwestern. Currently a rising senior. After my freshman year, I interned for a company called Music at Menlo. You might have heard of this. It's a chamber music festival in Menlo Park. The reason why I interned there is because I went to Music at Menlo, the camp, when I was back in high school, and I really enjoyed it. In the summer after freshman year, not a lot of college students get internships and stuff because you're only a freshman, and just much more qualified candidates out there. However, some people do get internships, and that's because of connections, or it's mostly because of connections. So I interned at Music at Menlo. I was a merchandising intern. Basically, I bought and sold different kinds of merchandise items like T-shirts and gloves and stuff for the festival. And I learned how to keep a budget, how to count up the money at the end of the day, how to present my findings to the staff, how to work with other teams, such as ticketing, on that sort of things. So I picked up a lot of different skills at Music at Menlo. Ultimately, I knew that this sort of arts administration job is not what I wanted to go into. However, it was a good experience and it looked good on my resume because I was only a freshman. Beginning of sophomore year, Accenture came to Northwestern and they offered a case competition. So basically what it was that you were randomly put into a team of undergraduate students and they would present you a case. So in our case, the case was a nonprofit organization that currently operates in the New England area. They wanted to expand nationwide in 4 years. And how are you supposed to do that? And they give you some data and you think of the solution. I worked with 4 random people. We ended up doing very well, actually. We became the Northwestern finalist for the national competition. But what I learned from this was my first very formal teamwork experience and my first time really networking with a lot of professionals. And it showed me that there's a lot of people out there with a lot of things to offer. And you definitely want to just meet as many people as you can, gain these work experiences, see if consulting or something is something that you want to do. So I had that experience. I decided consulting was not something I wanted to do because of this experience. However, if I had not done this competition, maybe I would still be pursuing consulting today. End of sophomore year, I got together with some friends and we entered a different kind of case competition. So this is a company called Nielsen. They're all about data analytics. They collect data on everything you can imagine, and then they sell that data to businesses so they can better run their business. It was a similar sort of case competition, but it's much more statistics based. So I worked on that. We were the Northwestern winner. But ultimately, again, I realized this isn't something that I want to do. It's fun to crunch numbers in Excel and stuff, but I realized that it's just a little bit much for me. So I figured out that's what I didn't want to do. So this whole time during sophomore year, I've been exploring other fields as well. So that's investment banking. But I've also been looking at prop trading. So prop trading is a less popular finance path, but definitely very lucrative. Prop trading is short for proprietary trading. So what it is basically a firm that takes its own money and trades stocks on the market and just tries to make money. That's what the firm does. So, of course, a lot of prop trading firms, most firms really are looking for juniors, rising seniors to do their internship programs because they want interns that if they do well, they'll offer them a job and they'll come on as full-time employees after they graduate college. So T3 Trading Group, they posted a job posting at the Northwestern Career Cat. It wasn't even for an internship position. It was for a full-time hire. But I found the guy's email and I emailed him. I was like, hey, I'm only a sophomore, but I'm very interested in prop trading, interested in the markets. Is there any way I can do an internship at your company over the summer? He emailed back and said, James, we're only looking for full-time employees right now, but why don't we keep in touch and I'll see what can happen. And this was back in October, sophomore year. So we kept in touch. I would ask him questions about the market. If something crazy happened, I'd be like, oh, what does this mean? What did you do? And he would answer my questions. We emailed back and forth a couple of times a month or so. Until it came to April, then I asked him again, Alex, do you think I could have a chance to intern at your company this summer? And he was like, you know what, James, you seem pretty interested in the markets. You seem like you really want to learn. Why don't you come by my office for a couple weeks this summer? So I did. I took him up on that offer and I ended up interning with the T3 Trading Group after my sophomore year, even though they didn't have an internship position available. So the lesson that I drew from this is that, don't be afraid to reach out to somebody. He was looking to hire full-time people, but I just emailed him as a sophomore, just not expecting anything, but it turned out to be a good thing. So don't be afraid to ask for things, and don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions. Don't be afraid to show interest, because that's really what excites people the most, is when someone's really interested in what they're doing. So what I interned for this past summer, I actually just got back yesterday from my internship. I was at Trillium Trading in New York City. So it's similar to T3 Trading Group. It's another prop trading firm. I actually started emailing Trillium at around the same time I emailed T3, because I was looking for any kind of internship I could find. Trillium was a little more strict about only having juniors intern. However, the human resource director, Carrie Grill, he was like, James, you seem interested in the markets, why don't we keep in touch as well? So the whole time I was emailing Alex, I was also keeping in touch with Trillium. And so after sophomore summer when I entered with T3 Trading, I was still keeping in touch with Trillium. And then when Trillium came to Northwestern that November, I was able to interview with him without even applying, because he knew that I'd been interested in the markets and that I've been keeping in touch with him for a while. So again, this just goes to show that if you really want to do something, if you really want experience, don't be afraid that you might be too young or you don't have enough work experience. Give it your best shot. Learn as much as you can about the thing, and if the person feels like you really want to learn, then they'll give you an opportunity. It's really quite easy. So yeah, I entered with Trillium, and yeah, I'm going to finish senior year and probably go into prop trading after that. All right, so what are the takeaways from this? You definitely want to demonstrate interest. If you know that you want to go into business, you want to show colleges that you have done your research on what business is and that you've worked to better understand what it is. You don't just want to throw the word business on the college app because you think that's what people want to see. You want to go into business because you actually want to. And you can't just say, oh, I want to do business, but you actually have to show the results of your search. So you want to do research, learn about the markets. What does it mean to, what is the New York Stock Exchange? What is it, what does it mean to have supply and demand? What does it mean? They're very basic concepts. You don't have to know them very well, but you want to show colleges that you have learned about these things. Learn about the business opportunities at a college, Don't just say, I want to go to this school because it's very good. Why is it good? Is it because they have a very strong economics program? Is it because they have a lot of companies that recruit there? Is it because they have a special, business certificate? Why is it good? You want to ask questions to a lot of business professionals or even your peers. Because the best way to learn about a business is to talk to people who are already in that business. And they can tell you what it's like to live a day in the life of a consultant or something. You can also do stuff, you can take a tour of a local bank, It might not tell you the most information, but if you can somehow slip that into your college essay, say, my interest in business was piqued when I toured my local bank, like it will show that you've taken steps to demonstrate your interest in business. And then not only have to do research, but it's good to get experience. So there are these two big high school clubs, FBLA and DECA. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of them. They're very good starting points for people who want to go into business. It introduces you to like basic economics concepts, networking. You'll do business competitions. And a lot of colleges like know that students do this. So it can be a very good thing to have on your Common App. I personally did FBLA at Lynbrook. I was the treasurer for a couple of years, but I also did the economics competition where I placed 5th in the state. And then I was also on a team for the marketing competition where I got national champion. So I definitely think that that helped my college application, and it showed colleges that I was very interested in business. But it doesn't even have to be FBLA or DECA. Just get a leadership position in any group. You know, it can be like the anime club. But if you become like the president or treasurer of that, like it shows that you take leadership, like you know how to like manage people, you know how to like do teamwork. Anything like that shows colleges that you're ready for a career in business. If you have a family business, like you can organize the finances, do some accounting, or just get an internship. Like you can work for like a local congressman. It can be as simple as like filing papers or getting coffee, but like if you can expose yourself to a real life work experience, work environment before applying to college, that puts you ahead of a lot of other people. If you like the stock market, you can invest like a few $100s in a portfolio, and talk about what you learned. Be like, when this news event came out, the stock went up, and it just shows that you like follow the markets and stuff like that. But really, it doesn't have to be business, right? It can be anything, like science project. Like I said earlier, like even if all you do is science, you can always spin that into a business interest, or not just business interest, but whatever you're interested in. Anything can be spun. You can even help out at like an animal shelter. It just shows that you take the initiative to do things. You want to help others. You can even like teach SAT classes. Yeah, that's it. So I hope that taught you guys about business. If you have any questions, you can ask them now.
What's your email address so we can keep in contact?
My email address is james.k.hu@gmail.com. Yeah, like if anyone wants to email me with a question, if you think of it later, I'll be happy to respond. Yeah, I can write it. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions by email later as well.
So I have a question. Based on your experience of working on the internship at different companies, so for each of the job, what makes you to feel like, oh, this is not the right job for me. I really don't want to do it. What I want to go to the future. What will be your thinking when you do all of this?
Yeah. So the question was, when you work at a job, how do you know if this is something that you want to do? How do you know if this is something that you don't want to do? And what I would say is that you can think about logistical factors and stuff, but in the end of the day, it's all about what you feel like in your gut. You'll have a gut instinct of whether or not this job is for you. And the reason why, for example, I did the Accenture consulting competition and I decided I didn't want to do consulting was because there were certain aspects of the job that I didn't like. And that was like, making a presentation, working with very vague data. I just felt like it wasn't something I wanted to do. And also, part of the recruiting process for consulting is doing a lot of networking. So it's like talking to a lot of business professionals, but also like getting their business cards, keeping in touch with them. I find a lot of that to not fit my personality. I find it to be very disingenuous. And for that reason, I decided consulting wasn't for me. The reason why I think prop trading is good for me is because it's like a very agile job. You want to be good at like mental math. You want to calculate things quickly. You want to have very fast reactions, and that's always something that I've been very good at. And I feel like if the job requires these things that I'm good at, then I'm probably a good fit for the job. And also just like prop trading, it got me very excited. Every time I entered a trade, like my heart would beat faster. It got me excited. I would like get out of bed early in the morning to do that. So that's what I want to do. Another good way to find out, like say if you want to do like investment banking, is to take a couple classes in finance. I was pursuing prop trading as a career, but I was also doing investment banking at the same time until the beginning of junior year when I took my first finance class. It's called Principles of Finance. It's very basic stuff, like how to calculate cost of capital, this kind of cash flows and stuff. I found the concepts very interesting, but I did not like doing the work because I found it very tedious and difficult. And if I were doing investment banking, I would be doing that every day. And I decided for that reason, I didn't want to do it. And that's also why it's good to talk with professionals who are already working in that field, because they can tell you what kind of work they do, what kind of hours they work. And from that, you can sort of judge, do I see myself fitting into this schedule? Do I see myself fitting into this company? Yeah, the best way to find out whether or not you like it is just gather as much information as you can about it.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
What are the classes that you took at Lindbergh which are useful for the business or finance?
At Lindbergh?
Yeah.
Okay, that was a while ago. Definitely all math classes are very useful. It's like up to calculus. AP Statistics was pretty useful because the first statistics class I took at Northwestern was basically the same thing as AP Statistics. English classes, they're a little less directly relevant, but it's good to know how to like write, communicate with people, because most colleges will make you take like a freshman writing class, so it's good to be very good at interpreting writing and stuff. Science classes are a little less relevant because I didn't do any science at Northwestern, but yeah, I would say overall like the math classes are very important to focus on.
What about computer science? Very useful for doing the finance. I know that before many students want to go to Wall Street, but now it seems the trend is a lot of people trying to go to San Francisco in the high tech. So I don't know if computer science also is kind of helpful for doing this finance.
Yeah, definitely tech is becoming a very big draw for college graduates. However, tech, it's still useful in finance as well, because a lot of banks and trading firms, they trade the stock market using like coded algorithms. So learning computer science is definitely good. I know Lindbergh offers like Java and APCS. Those are good classes to take because they look good on your resume, even if you don't want to do tech. I didn't take any of those classes at Lindbergh, but I did take a programming class at Northwestern, and I think that helped me a lot, helped me really put things in perspective. But yeah, even if you don't want to go into tech or coding, I think it's good to know some computer science, just because computers are, the future.
Jake, can you repeat your first couple of slides because we missed it?
Sure, yeah, I can go through them very quickly.
Thank you.
Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I study economics and music theory. I'm doing the financial economics certificate through the Graduate Business School of Kellogg. A little bit about school. Located in the suburb of Chicago. There's 6 undergraduate colleges. Ranking number 13, 45% of our classes early decision. Just like an agenda of what we do. What is business? Business school. Some schools offer a full program, so that's for students who know they want to do business and they can commit to it for 4 years. Whereas a lot of schools, they offer partial programs to the graduate school for undergrads. So that's for students who want to take a couple of years, test the waters, see different classes, see what they want to do. And in the end, if they decide that they do want to do business, then you can apply to get into special undergraduate programs at these business schools. So yeah, I'm doing the Kellogg certificate at Northwestern. Is that?
I think we there's another one we're talking about. What is it?
Let's see this slide. So a lot of people, they get out of college, they do a job for 2 to 3 years. That's usually consulting or finance, and then they go get their MBA, and then they use that to pivot into a different career.
What is your career after graduate is going to look like? Do you know if your path, you said you're going to do, you're interested in that thing, or after that you're going to go pursue higher advanced degree, MBA, or is it not necessary for you?
Yeah, so my I think I'm taking a little bit of a different path. I don't really intend to get an MBA because I don't want to go into consulting or finance or that kind of direct business. I want to do trading for anywhere from like 3 to 7 years, depending on how I like it, how well I do as a trader. But I eventually want to pivot into the music industry. Music's always been a big part of my life, and I want to, work in music management or something like that. Yeah.
When choosing a college to apply to, what made you choose like Northwestern business program versus maybe like Haas or Sloan or other colleges?
Yeah, so I didn't apply to MIT because I'm just not like phenomenal at like math or stuff that they look for. In the end, I was considering going between Berkeley and Northwestern, and the reason why I chose Northwestern is because, not just because of the business program. Both Haas and Kellogg are very strong business schools. But the reason I chose Northwestern was because it got me out of the Bay Area, which is where I grew up. And I knew that like by going to a different place, meeting different kinds of people, living far away from home, away from like the safety of like family and stuff, it would help me develop and grow as a person. And also because I went to study music in college, and Northwestern's music school is very, very good. So those are some of the reasons I went to Northwestern. But I think I would have been very, very happy and successful at Berkeley as well. Yes.
I had a question that's more specific to Northwestern. You mentioned you were a double major, and so what is your workload like, and how much flexibility in your schedule do you get to, for example, choose elective classes?
Sure. So I actually came into a special program at Northwestern called the Dual Degree Program. So I came in not just a double major, but pursuing 2 separate degrees. I was getting a Bachelor of Arts in Economics from the Liberal Arts School, and I was getting a Bachelor of Music in Violin Performance from the Music School. So that's known at Northwestern as one of the most rigorous programs because you're doing a full course load for 2 separate degrees in 5 years. It's a 5-year program. So in that program, I had very little flexibility. I basically had to take all the required classes, overload on credits every quarter just to graduate on time. So after a couple of years, I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. So I changed to a double major, which lightened my load a lot. Had I started as a double major from the beginning, I would probably, so it's normal at Northwestern to take 4 credits per quarter. I would not be able to accomplish that as a double major because I've been taking on average 5 credits a quarter. But I would say that I definitely did have the flexibility, I would say, to take 1 or 2 just like fun elective classes every year. And of course, so economics and music theory, they're very different. If I did, say, economics and math, there would be a lot of overlaps in the major requirements, and that would free up even more elective space. And if I did just one major, I would have even more time. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. Anything else?
One more question. Is that the music your true passion?
I think so, yeah.
So you just choose another major because just for making a living, right? So
Well,
is that for the purpose, and then eventually you want to still go back to your profession? Is that?
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me that. Yes, I do love music, but I also am genuinely interested in economics. Like, I do love following the market. Like, both things I'm very interested in. I'm definitely not choosing economics just to like get a job, because quite frankly, you can get a job with any major, as long as you show that you're passionate in other ways. But yeah, I definitely do want to blend economics and music later in my life. Work business for like a music company, be like VP of finance for a music company. And this year, senior year, I'm thinking about doing a research project on the economics of music festivals and how they like price things. So I'm definitely at the intersection of those 2 interests.
Thanks.
Yes.
Can you express a little bit slide about the MBA program?
This?
Yeah. What does that mean, the partial course for undergraduate?
Yeah. Okay, so I guess I do this a little bit quickly. So Kellogg, Haas, and Sloan, they're graduate schools. They accept like graduate students into their MBA programs. However, because they're attached to an undergraduate institution, they also offer a special partial program for undergraduates, and that's different for every school. So I can speak to Kellogg because I am in that program there. They have a certificate program for undergraduates where you need to an undergrad needs to take like rigorous prerequisite classes and get good grades, and you can apply for the program. If you get accepted into the program, then you can take a few Kellogg graduate courses, and that's considered like the best you can do for like an undergraduate business education at Northwestern. Of course, it's not a full business degree, but it's like a certificate program. So that's what I mean by partial program. Haas is pretty similar, and I'm not very familiar with Sloan's. But yeah, they're basically like minors. It's like a minor offered through the business school. Yeah.
So you mentioned you went to economic competition when you were at MBA. What kind of competition is it?
Yeah, so that's a competition offered through FPLA, the club. And then just part of what the organization does at a national level is have like business conferences at a regional, state, and national level. And one of the things that you can do at the conference is do these different competitions. So there's many different kinds of competitions, like 50 different kinds. I just picked economics because that's what I was interested in, and I placed well. So basically, joining FBLA gave me this opportunity. Otherwise, I don't know if I would have found like a competition like that. I think FBLA definitely offers like a lot of good opportunities in that sense.
How about DECA?
So I never did DECA because it started at Lindbergh It started at Lindbergh in my junior year, and I was already like in FBLA at that time. DECA is very similar. They do have state, national, and international conferences with competitions as well. Personally, I just like FBLA because I'm in it. There's kind of like a little rivalry, but you can't go wrong with like either one. So.
In college, did you ever think about changing your major?
Yeah, so as I was saying earlier to answer his question, I came in as a violin performance major, and I was doing that for like a little while, but then I decided that I wanted to change my major because a lot of violin performance requires, practicing, of course, and that means spending 2 to 3 hours in a practice room every day, like by myself. And after a quarter of it, I realized that, college has a lot more to offer. Like, there's a lot of different people to meet, a lot of different clubs to join, a lot of different classes I wanted to take. I decided that spending time alone in a practice room, practicing for hours every day, when I didn't want to be a musician, I wanted to go into business, I decided that wasn't worth my time. So for that reason, I changed to music theory, which is a lot more academic and saves me a lot of time. But like along the way, I've also definitely thought about changing my major. I thought about picking up like a math minor. I thought about picking up like a sociology minor, just because at the time those things appealed to me. The thing to know is that in college you'll be exposed to like a lot of different ideas, a lot of people who do things that you think are super cool, and you might want to do it yourself. And it's definitely okay to like change your major and stuff, but like in the end you have to realize like what can I see myself studying for 4 years, so like that. So yeah, definitely expect to change your major. Yeah.
So just curious, so you applied to the music, right? Violin performance. So Northwest have put music school as well as music in that school. So what else school you applied to, and is that major you apply, or you actually choose different major when you apply to different colleges?
Yeah, so I knew applying to colleges that I want to go into business. And at the time I thought economics was like a perfect business major. So I applied as economics to all the schools that I applied to. I applied to the UC system as well as a lot of private schools. And if any schools offered like joint programs between liberal arts and music, I applied to those programs as well. But yeah, I applied the same major for every school because that's what I was genuinely interested in. I didn't try to use like a less common major as like a way to get into a college. I feel like that isn't necessarily a good idea.
Just curious, what else could have this kind of music plus economics?
Yeah, so Northwestern has it, University of Michigan has it, Columbia and Juilliard School have a joint program. Harvard and New England Conservatory have this joint program. Johns Hopkins and Peabody Institute have this program. Yeah, those are all like dual degree programs. Yeah.
So how much help do you think that competition you know, the what you got from high school and in your college application?
Yeah, of course it's hard to say because there's a lot of factors in my application, but I definitely think it was very, very powerful, especially because I was applying as an economics major. So showing that I demonstrated interest in economics before applying to college, as well as performing very well in it, I think definitely helped colleges see that I was really interested in going into business. I would definitely say it's one of the stronger points in my application.
So in which way you showed that, you know, your interest on based on what you have done in high school?
Yeah, so there's the economics competition I talked about, as well as the marketing competition. I was the treasurer of FBLA for 2 years, where I put on like a lot of finances, a lot of fundraisers, organized a lot of finances, did accounting with the school, and I talked about all that in my application. So that showed that I had like a head for numbers. I was interested in business. I also demonstrated a lot of leadership, not necessarily in a business way, but I organized events through FBLA. I was a section leader in my youth orchestra for many years. And it all showed that I was capable of teamwork and that I was willing to take the initiative to learn.
So those activities show in your resume or actually you know show in your essay?
Yeah, it's all on my resume. And for my essay, I talked specifically about one fundraiser event that I put on for FBLA that required a lot of work and teamwork. But yeah, everything else was like on like Common App, because obviously you're not gonna have time to talk about everything in your essay. You want to pick out the most important thing, the best story to tell.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was all like the music melody Nielsen. Was that all during college or was that high school?
Yeah, that was all during college. So
Oh, okay.
Music ML I did after freshman year. Nielsen, those competitions were in sophomore year. Yeah.
How easy to change your major in the university, in the Western?
At Northwestern, it's actually very easy. Like I said, I thought about changing my major many times. You come in as a major, but you're allowed to take any classes, study for any major you want until your senior year when you have to officially declare. So you have 3 years to choose a major. You can also change between schools. I know people who have gone from like economics to journalism. I know people have gone from like the journalism school to like a math program at Northwestern. Northwestern, I'd say the requirements are they're very lax for changing between schools. I definitely think that's one of the big reasons why I applied. Yeah.
So it seems a large portion of the section the students enrolled by the ED. If you go by the regular application, how easy it will be?
I don't have the exact numbers, but you definitely have a higher percent chance for ED, lower for regular.
You mentioned 45% is the ED.
Yeah.
So not
45?
Yeah, so not much left for the regular application.
I mean, you have to think about it. It's 2,000 people per freshman class, so that leaves you with what 1,100 spots, or 1,100 spots in regular decision. I guess it is pretty low. Admission rate 13%. That means the admission rate for regular decision is lower than 13%. But I mean, you're gonna find similar admission numbers for any like private school. So I mean, if you really feel like Northwestern is the place that you want to be, I would recommend going early decision. Otherwise, I wouldn't be too concerned about applying regular. Yeah, definitely like choosing where you want to apply early is like a very big decision. You definitely want to like make sure you're applying to the right school.
So James, besides Northwest, of course, you loved it, I guess, right? So, what's the top school you recommend for the, to come in high school?
Like
students
for-
go to college.
Like for like a
If they
business
choose
program?
Yeah.
I would definitely say one of the New York schools, NYU and Columbia have extremely good business opportunities because they're located right in New York. Of course, if you go to school with a very reputable name like Harvard, you'll be able to get a lot of interviews at places. But I would say like the best. Wharton's very strong as well because it's a very famous undergraduate business program. So I feel like any of those schools are probably like top places to go. Yeah.
When you were applying to Northwestern or other school, did you have to go to an interview?
Yeah. This was all a while ago, so I don't remember too much, but definitely most of the schools that I applied to, like an alumnus is going to reach out to you and be like, hey, can we grab coffee at this time? I wouldn't be too like freaked out by those. A lot of it is a chance for you to get to know the school. You want to come prepared with good questions. Don't just ask stuff like, oh, like what did you like about this school? What did you not like? But you want to show that you've done research on the school. You want to say like, oh, I saw that there was like a Bonger Club. Can you tell me about that? Were you in it? Like questions that show that you've researched the school. Questions that are really going to help you decide whether or not you want to go to the school. Like you might want to ask like, is there like a big like intramural sports system? Are the dorms very social or are they not social? How's the dining hall food? Questions like that. But a lot of those interviews are a chance for the alumnus to sell the school to you. They want to tell you why their school is the best and why you should pick them. And you definitely want to like learn as much as you can about school from them. But it's like very casual. I've heard that their opinion of you in that interview doesn't matter too much in the decision process. It's really just a chance for each side to get to know each other better.
Okay, so it was more of you asking questions about the school and not like them asking questions.
I would actually say it's more them asking questions or them like telling me about the school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. A lot of times it's just like them like reliving their college days, trying to tell like their best stories and stuff. So you just like listen, try to take in as much as you can.
I have a question about your AP class that you took before.
Yeah.
And the grade, your AP class, the grade you get, your 5 or 4 or 3, does it really affect your application?
I don't know how much it affects, but it's definitely like a very big deal. Because taking AP classes shows that yes, I can take on a hard course load. Yes, I can, spend a lot of time in schoolwork, but also do all these extracurricular activities. I definitely tried to take as many AP classes as I could in high school, and I performed very well on the tests. And I also self-studied some APs, so that shows like a lot of initiative as well. Yeah, AP classes I think are very important to take.
You get all 5? Apparently.
I got all 5s. Well, how many APs I took? Like 12. I got 5s on every one except I got 4 in statistics because I just stopped caring and I just didn't study for it. Yeah. But yeah, I took like AP English Language, AP English Literature, Calculus BC, Biology. I self-studied music theory, microeconomics, macroeconomics. Took AP Chinese. I took AP Spanish. Yeah, those are some of the classes I took.
So how many of them by junior year?
By junior year, I had taken calculus, English language, Chinese, microeconomics, macroeconomics, biology, 6. I feel like I took more, I don't know. Yeah, another thing to consider when applying to college is like how much AP credit they're willing to take. Like you can obviously use AP credit to pass out of intro classes, and that can be very useful. For example, at Northwestern, I used AP Micro and AP Macro to pass out of the intro economics classes, and that like saved me a lot of time. But not all schools are very accommodating of AP credits, so that's something I look into as well. Yeah.
Would you recommend self-studying for AP class, like AP tests, even like during senior year, because you've already like applied to college?
Well, during senior year, self-studying for AP and taking the test obviously isn't going to help your college application. So I think the only reason why you'd want to do that is if you wanted to actually learn about the subject, or if you want to use that to like get out of some class in the college. And that would just be you researching the college, see if I want to study like AP, if I want to self-study AP Hebrew, like whether or not that's going to get me out of like a language class at school. You know, if it's not, then I'd say like you don't really have to. But like APs are useful for that purpose. Yeah.
Did any of the AP language classes help you in any way?
Yeah, so Northwestern, if you're at the liberal arts college in Northwestern, then you have to take 2 years of a language. I had both AP Chinese and AP Spanish, so I passed out of that instantly. So yeah, that saved me like 6 classes. So that was very, very good. Because like I have a lot of peers who like struggle with that language program, and like a lot of my friends actually have transferred to like different undergraduate colleges just because they don't want to learn a foreign language. But yeah, if you can pass out of that in college, then you save yourself a lot of time.
Okay, how much did your AP macro and micro classes or tests help with your classes in college? Like, was it really like closely related, or was there like a huge difference between the AP test and the college classes?
So that depends on the AP test actually. Micro and macro, those are my first like real exposures to economics. They're actually very helpful and very relevant to my college classes. However, I know that like AP biology is very different from college bio. Calculus is useful. Statistics is useful. Languages are useful, but like yeah, AP bio is kind of different. AP English classes are kind of different. Yeah, it all depends on the AP test. But I would like still just try to take as many as you can.